Hello friends, my name is Arwen, and I'm so pleased to have you back for another online program from the Durham County Library. Today, we are going to look at two experiments that will teach us a little bit about how water moves. And I don't mean like raining. So, for our first experiment, I have 7 containers of water in front of me. Some of the containers have food coloring in them, and the ones that do not, you will notice have a lot less water in them than the ones that do have food coloring. So next, I took a bunch of coffee filters and cut them in half, and then folded them up, and I'm going to put them in the water. Now the reason I'm using coffee filters is because they are very porous. Do you know what porous means? Don't worry if you don't. I'm about to tell you. Porous means that this material has lots and lots and lots of tiny little holes in it so that things can pass through it. When you make coffee in the morning, or when your grown-up makes coffee in the morning, I hope you're not making coffee in the morning, you want the water to pass through the filter but not the coffee grounds. So that is made possible through a porous coffee filter. So we are going to put our coffee filters into our containers of water so that they are touching the water on both sides. There we go. It looks like little bridges. Here we are. And of course we want to make sure that the ends of the coffee filters are touching the water on both sides. So that one's very just there. All right, so now we have set up our first experiment. Now this experiment is going to take a little bit of time. So while it is working, I'm going to show you another experiment that I started a couple days ago because it takes even longer and we didn't want to sit here staring at the screen for 3 days. So I took some celery, and yes, I've been sitting next to this bunch of celery since we started, out of my fridge. And celery, as you know, is a vegetable. And a vegetable is always a plant. So what we're going to do is look at how plants can bring water up into their leaves or petals or other parts of them that are very far away from the bottom. Because when you pick a plant, a flower or a piece of grass, or maybe you found a 4-leaf clover, what do you do when you bring it home? There's a very good chance that you put it in water. But how does that water get all the way through the plant? Let's see. So, using my celery, I cut 3 different stalks and put them in, you guessed it, colored water, using the same food coloring that we are using for our other experiment. Boop, 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 boop. Let's put them where you can see them. So, what do you notice about these stalks of celery? How are they different from the celery that I showed you earlier? Still sitting next to it. If you said they are different colors, you are absolutely right. Now, what does this mean about the water and the celery and their relationship? Well, let's see. There must be some way the colors, the colored water that is, are getting into the celery. I wonder how. Well, I have an answer. So I cut a piece of the blue celery off, and as you can see, it's a little bit shorter. Hopefully you'll be able to see this. Hold up. See how there are tiny little blue dots at the end of the celery? Those are the ends of long tubes called xylem, which is spelled, if you care, X-Y-L-U-M, xylem. And these xylem go all the way up from the very bottom of the celery and any other plant, from the very bottom of the plant, all the way up to all its different parts. So the different leaves and flowers, if there were flowers on celery. Don't think that there are. I've never seen them. Anyway, you can see up here, see how even the leaves are blue, and you can kind of, let's take a little bit of this one off because you really have to see it up close to see the red. Can you see that? You can kind of see it. So, how does the water get up the xylem? very interesting, actually. It is a process called capillary action. And I'm going to explain more to you about that when we check in with our other experiment. So first I'm going to put the celery away. Boom, 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 boom. Probably won't eat that celery. And let's look at our experiment. It's not coming along very quickly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a break from the video, and then in probably about half an hour, we're going to come back and look at our experiment. But don't worry, you don't have to wait a whole half hour. I will edit that part out. All right, I'm very excited to show you what's happening with this water and the food coloring, and to tell you all about what is causing it. Hello friends. It has now been several hours since we began our experiment. You may have noticed that some things have changed. So let's remember that when we started, this container, this container, this container, and this container were the only containers that had colored water in them. This container, and this container did not. So what has happened? Because now those containers look like they have some color in them. This one's a very light blue. You might not be able to see it. And not only do they have color in them, they have more water than they had before. So how could that have happened? Because it means that somehow water got from these containers into these containers. Now remember, when we looked at our celery and we saw how the colored water had been sucked up through the xylem, the little tubes that go all through plants, and we could see where the water had been distributed to different parts of the plant. A similar thing happened here. Now, you must be thinking to yourself, how is that possible? Coffee filters don't have xylem. Coffee filters are not plants. You are right. But remember, the coffee filters are porous. They have tiny little holes all through them, so tiny we can only see them with a microscope. And it's these tiny holes that have allowed the water molecules to adhere to the coffee filters. Adhere. What is adhering? Adhering means sticking together. You may have seen a bottle of glue or a glue stick that says adhesive on it. Adhesive means that this is a thing that makes other things stick to each other. It makes them adhere. So maybe that's an easy way to remember. Adhesives are sticky things that cause adherence. They make things adhere. They make things stick together. Yes. So this process where the water molecules are adhering to the coffee filters or adhering to the xylem and being brought up and over different containers or up into a plant, that process is called capillary action. Some of you may have learned that capillaries are a thing we have in our bodies. And capillaries in our bodies help the blood get into all of the different parts, much like how capillary action helps water get into all the parts of the plant. Very interesting. So, what do you think about our experiment? I like all the colors. And think about it. Next time you pick a plant and put it in some water, that what you are seeing, even though you won't be able to see it if you don't put food coloring in the water, when the plant lives and is drinking the water, you're seeing capillary action. And you could explain it to one of your grown-ups or one of your friends. And it'll be very interesting, much like it was here today. Thank you again for joining us for online programs, the Durham County Library. I'm Arwen. Have a great day.